Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today's topic is going to be how and why to stop freaking out. So, get to that in a minute. Let's take a couple of nice deep breaths. Breathe in the peace. Exhale the noise. Breathe in the calm. Exhale the fear. All right. So, how and why to stop freaking out? You guys have heard me say it over and over and over again. Nobody ever got better by freaking out. Freak out less. Try to stop freaking out. So, a couple people will say, but why? Why is that important? Other people will say, how do I do that? Right. So let me start with the why it's important. Anybody with chronic symptoms, whether it be pain or other types of symptoms, likely has a brain and a nervous system that is highly sensitive and highly vigilant, always on guard and looking for danger. And so, if your brain is always on alert, looking for perceived danger everywhere, every time you freak out, what are you doing? You're screaming, danger, right? And so every time you do that, you're just confirming the brain's necessity to stay on high alert, highly vigilant. It's not very likely, if you continue to do that on a regular basis, that your brain is going to learn that you're actually safe. Why? Because every so often you're freaking out. So that's really the why. Why do we want to do it? And I guess the analogy I'll have is, let's say, let's say it's a relationship. One partner, every once in a while, freaks out and screams and says horrible, horrible things to the other partner. But then the next day kind of goes back to being nice. Maybe issuing an apology, maybe not. I won't do that again. Or acting like nothing happened. And then a few days later, they freak out and they blow up again. They start saying all this horrible stuff. But then they go right back to being nice. And so if this is a pattern that goes on and off and on and off, I have a question for you. Will the person getting screamed at ever truly trust the person doing the screaming? Right? Probably not. So if you've got two parts of your brain, one is the intelligent thinking part that's going, I know what this is. This is TMS. I'm safe. There's nothing wrong. It's okay. We're going to relax. We're going to breathe. This is the part of you that is really trying to calm yourself down, calm your brain down. But if the other part of you that has a tendency to freak out shows up often, several times a month, several times a week, several times a day, the part of the brain that says, I want to trust that safety stuff. I want to calm down because I don't like being all jacked up on fear and adrenaline and cortisol and stress hormones. I'd much rather be calmed down, but man, you keep on freaking out and getting into a complete panic. And the thoughts that you're believing are true are just really keeping me, the brain, in this need to stay hypervigilant and hypersensitive. So why is it so important to stop freaking out? Because I don't think you're going to get rid of your pain as long as you keep on freaking out. I don't think your rational, calm self is going to trust that you're safe if you keep on freaking out and screaming danger, right? So that's why. Now, how do we actually accomplish this? First of all, understanding why is super important, because when you truly realize every time you're freaking out, you're delaying recovery and keeping your brain and your nervous system, static electricity, freaking out, how becomes easier because you recognize, man, I know I'm freaking out. This is not a good thing. And our subconscious brain's not going to really chill out and dial down and turn off the symptoms or the pains as long as it's still terrified. And if you keep on freaking out, you're literally scaring the crap out of yourself. So how becomes easier when you're actually really clear on why it's important. But now how do you do it? Well, you always hear me talk about indifference. And trust me, I get so much pushback on this. And I get it. Indifference, truly not showing any concern, whether you hurt or not, is difficult. It is challenging. It is possible, but you're not going to get there in a single step. You're not going to go from freaking out to authentic indifference like that in a single step. It's just not going to happen. So how do you accomplish it? Practice. Recognizing when you're starting to freak out with that mental state that's going off the rails and the emotional state that's getting despondent, angry, fearful, worried. What do we want to do? We want to notice that and take steps to make subtle shifts and say, all right, I'm not going to, come on back out, Dan, don't freak out. And then you're not going to snap right into indifference and truly, authentically not caring whether you have symptoms or not. But you can start moving away from freak out towards calmly reassuring yourself. Remind yourself, I'm okay. I've done the research. I've learned. I understand TMS. I've read the books. I've watched the videos. I've listened to the podcasts. I've, taken courses. I've done a lot of things surrounding TMS, so I understand it. And I'm accepting that is the thing that makes the most sense. The physical stuff doesn't make sense. And so how do you stop freaking out? Accurate knowledge is a really, really good tool. And also understanding, like I just talked about, why it's so darn important to stop freaking out. Those two tools in your tool belt will make stopping freaking out easier for you. Because it is literally when you understand why it's so important and you have the accurate knowledge, you can now make a firm decision and a commitment to yourself that every time you feel yourself sliding down into that freak out hole, drag yourself back out. Reassure yourself, I'm not going to freak out. And when you accurately know it's TMS, then you can accurately say to yourself, there's nothing dangerous happening here. There's truly nothing harmful happening here. Yes, massively uncomfortable. Like, wow, uncomfortable. But not dangerous, not harmful. And so, the move towards indifference starts with calm reassurance anytime the symptoms are getting your attention. And they will get your attention. Notice, nowhere in this video have I said, ignore your pain, ignore your symptoms. That's not possible. Because if I told you that, and you said, well, I can't do that, then I'm never going to get better, right? No, so don't try to ignore your pain. But how you respond when you notice it, which you will either teach your brain that we can kind of turn the dial down and settle things down. Because if you do the opposite, which is freaking out, you're amplifying everything. You're teaching your brain, stay alert, stay on guard. There's lots of dangerous stuff happening. Freak out, freak out, freak out. The whole system amplifies and increases in intensity. And then you wonder why your pain and your symptoms are going haywire when you're freaking out. Now, don't get me wrong. When you start freaking out and the symptoms start escalating, if you're not aware of all this stuff, it's going to be very likely that you're going to freak out more because the increase in symptoms is going to make you panic more. But it's really so important for the reasons I've talked about already that we got to kind of pull ourselves out of the freak out. Calm yourself down. There is nothing dangerous or harmful happening. Massively uncomfortable, but nothing harmful is happening. And if your freak out starts with you saying, what if this never gets better? Accurate knowledge Once you teach your brain that you're safe, it will settle down. Right? So, super, super important. This is the how and why to stop freaking out. So I'm going to wrap this one up there. I would encourage you to watch this one a second time because it is that important. As long as you're freaking out, it's going to be really hard for you to convince your brain that you're safe, because every time you're trying to convince it that you're safe, it's remembering the last freak out. Just like that partnership where one person's always screaming horrible things, then the next day acting like everything's fine, and then screaming again, and then acting like everything's fine. The person getting screamed at is not going to trust the other party. As long as that freak out is happening and that screaming and those insults and horrible things are continuing to be said, you're not going to trust it. So your brain's not going to trust that it's safe, and it's okay to dial down the sensitivity of the brain and the nervous system and the vigilance until you stop freaking out and do it consistently. Consistent messages of safety. It doesn't mean 3 days of doing okay and then freak out. 3 days of doing okay and then freak out. And then wondering, why is this not working? This stuff doesn't work. Dan's full of crap. Well, stay away from the freak out. It's never helped anybody get better. It just delays recovery. So that's, in my opinion, how we do it and why it's so darn important. So, love you guys and gals. We'll see you tomorrow. Stop freaking out.